authoritarian tendencies that we heard about regarding Donald Trump in his first term. And, you can argue, well, there's a lot of hearsay. There's a lot of comments from disgruntled former administration officials who claim that Trump said these things behind closed doors. If you want to make that argument, that's fine. But even if, let's give those individuals the benefit of the doubt and just assume that Trump did, in fact, say those things during closed door meetings, it still doesn't rise to the actual definition of a fascist, right? I mean, where are the brown shirts? Where is the militarized citizenry that's going to carry out, Trump's dirty deeds? It's a type of hyperbole that I don't think Democrats, and I'm not talking about the voters, I'm talking about Democrats in positions of power, genuinely believed. I think what they did is use tactics of fear and division in order to accumulate votes and support in lieu of having an actual imagination of what this country could be if they implement policies that make the lives of ordinary Americans better. The Democrats have made a deal with the devil, and the devil is their corporate donors. And since their corporate donors want very specific things for the donations that they're providing to these politicians, and usually that's policy that does not bode well for American workers, what Democrats tend to do is lean into tactics of fear, or they talk about culture war issues, right? They lean into the culture war. And every election cycle, they get more and more maximalist with what they claim they want to carry out on these culture war topics. And they've gone too far. And I think Americans have kind of fought back against them. You gave three events that you've referenced, which made you reassess your political alignment. The first one was when you revealed you'd been sexually assaulted by two homeless people in LA in 2022, and you were accused of stigmatizing your unhoused neighbors, which was a staggering response to a woman revealing she'd been sexually assaulted. Tell me about that. Right. I mean, I hate having to relive it, but yeah, I was walking my dog and there were two men coming toward me. But, living in Los Angeles, there is a large homeless population, and I had never been, victimized by anybody before. So I didn't think much of it. As I was bending over to pick up my dog's mess, one of them grabbed me by the hips and with an erection, just started thrusting at me very violently. I was terrified. I was alone. I didn't have a weapon on me. And so, it took a while for me to get over that, because whether I like it or not, I have to walk my dog. Right. Sometimes I have to do it at night, right? And so I had to kind of think about that every single time I was taking my dog out to walk. And so I had just opened up about it on our show, not really thinking that it was going to lead to backlash. I wasn't even looking for sympathy. It was on my mind, and I just talked about it. And it led to just this wave of, you hate homeless people, you're stigmatizing homeless people, don't call them homeless people, they're unhoused, which I don't even understand why unhoused would be better than saying homeless.
And by the way, these are the same people. This is what the left
likes to do. Right, they like to change the language instead of actually addressing the issue at hand. Yeah,
and these are the same people who supposedly are there for women, right? And fighting for women and supporting women and believe women, all this kind of thing. But when it actually came to you, they just were prepared to throw you under a horrific bus. And far from treating you as a victim, they almost made you out to be the villain of this story.
They did, but I want to be clear about something. I think that this is a small but incredibly loud and influential faction of the Democratic Party. This is not indicative of all Democrats. This is not indicative of all Democratic lawmakers. This is a small group of activists who like to bully, who like to go to city council meetings, who like to go to various rallies and essentially be loud, be threatening, be aggressive until they get their way. And for far too long, the Democratic Party has been terrified of these little mobs of people, these little mobs of activists, and have basically just carried out what these activists want. And I just think that they need to be a little smarter than falling prey to the whims of various activist groups, because they are not representative of the majority of Americans. The majority of Americans, especially in a state like California, want homeless people to be housed, but they also understand that this issue is far more complicated than the housing first policy of throwing anyone who doesn't have a home into an apartment, right? Because the fact of the matter is we have severe mental health issues out on our streets right now, people who are struggling with severe drug addiction. Some of these people actually do have families to go to or homes to go to. They need a different type of service. They need rehabilitation, not harm reduction, where we're just passing out needles and crack pipes thinking that it's going to solve the problem. It has not solved the problem. It has made the lives of these individuals struggling on the streets far worse, and it has also made the lives of hardworking, tax-paying Americans in states like California a lot worse.
Yeah.
When I look at my life right now and I ask myself, which political party has made my life worse? It's not the Republican Party. Locally speaking, the Democrats have complete control, and they have nearly destroyed my family's livelihood. Okay, we are living in trash and squalor everywhere. And unless the Democratic Party actually acknowledge these issues and solve these issues, rather than stealing our taxpayer money and funneling it to their nonprofit friends, they keep doing this, they're going to keep losing. And I'm going to keep speaking out against them. I don't care how much they hate Trump. I don't care how naughty the Republicans are being. Right now, the people having a negative impact on my life is the Democratic Party, and they need to change their ways. When we say we want to change the status quo, it doesn't mean we want to live in anarchy. It doesn't mean that we want to have $24 billion of our taxpayer money in California stolen by these nonprofits. It means that we want working people to be rewarded for their hard work. We want affordable housing. We want better working conditions, higher wages, better health care. These are things that Democrats used to purport to want to do. They don't do any of it anymore. And so I'm done with them until they change their ways.
Yeah, I completely understand it. You also got blowback when you posted, "I'm a woman. Please don't ever refer to me as a person with a uterus or a person who menstruates." How do people not realize how degrading this is? You can support the transgender community without doing this shit. And I completely agree with you. The way that language about women has been eradicated at the altar of transgender activism, I find utterly obscene. Then you add the ridiculous assault on women's rights to fairness and equality in sport, the invasion of women's safe spaces. You know, we had a First Minister of Scotland, the head of the Scottish government, who had to resign because she took a male rapist and put him into a female prison when he just put his hand up and said, "By the way, I'm now a woman," because he wanted to get out of a male prison where he'd be treated badly and get near to new prey. That was Nicola Sturgeon. She was the First Minister of Scotland. It's incredible. But the reaction you got, I can imagine what it was, because we've seen what happens when J.K. Rowling and people like that, and when I've done it, you know, you put your head over that parapet, you get unbelievable abuse and threats and so on. Is that what happened to you?
Yeah, I mean, I did not expect that tweet to go as viral as it did. I didn't expect the kind of hatred I got in response to it. But look, that's okay. It's fine, right? I'm a public figure, and whether I like it or not, I signed up for any type of, you know, harassment, abuse, whatever that you get online as a result of stating your opinions. Look, the main point I want to make about the transgender community is that these are human beings, okay? They deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. And when it comes to any issue that has a real impact on their lives, housing, employment, all of that, there should be protection for this community, and we should respect the fact that they're human beings. At the same time, there are some issues that arise where the rights of one group, in this case, you know, the transgender community, kind of conflicts with the rights of another group, the rights of women. And what I think is important is that we actually have a real dialogue, a civil dialogue, about how we move forward in a way where both parties feel that they're being treated fairly and with dignity. I think that needs to be like the foundation of the conversation.
Right, but I do not like, for example, I like flying a lot. I fly with British Airways normally, and I'm used to a nice, smooth-talking British Airways pilot announcing, "Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your flight." They're not allowed to say that anymore. They're not allowed to use the words ladies and gentlemen in case there happens to be somebody who doesn't identify as a lady or gentleman on board, right? Which is likely to be a tiny, tiny number of people, right? On a plane of 700 people. How many are we talking? 1, 2, maybe none, right? But for them, the entire language about the vast majority of people has to be eradicated, to which I say, where are my rights to be called a gentleman? Or a woman's right to be called a lady? It may seem a small thing. Or a woman's right to be called a lady. It may seem a small thing, but it's all part of the same process of eradicating gender-specific language for a tiny minority and against the interests, in my opinion, of the vast majority. Where are our rights as the majority to actually have the language that we would like?
Well, I was unfamiliar with that story. What do they say in lieu of ladies and gentlemen?
They just use gender-neutral language, so I can't even remember. But it's like they call us passengers, and it's all just very stilted and gender-neutral, as you now see in hospitals and schools and everything else. I mean, I know there's a girls' school in England, for example, which is actually called, I think it's the Altrincham School for Girls up in the north of England, but you're not allowed to call the students who go there girls because there may be trans people offended. But they've kept the title of the school as a girls' school. So they sell entry to this school to prospective parents as a girls' school. But once your little girl goes there, no one will call her a girl, including the teachers.
That makes no sense. If it's an all-girls school, why would it
It's
be
ludicrous.
a problem? I guess
Obviously,
if
it's
there
ludicrous.
might be... Yeah, look, the way that I basically deal with this is I have a team of producers that help me produce the Young Turks daily. And I always refer to my team as, or like if I'm texting them about an element I need for a story, I'll always text with, hey guys, I need X, Y, and Z. Most of the people in my team are actually women. And so none of them are, I actually asked them, I'm like, are you guys at all offended that I say, hey guys? It's just kind of the way we spoke. Like in my generation, we kind of address a group of people as, hey guys.
Who cares
and
anyway?
they're totally fine with it because guess what? Most people are fine with it.
Yes.
Most people don't care. I
Yes.
just want to go back to what I said earlier about the small, loud group
Yes.
of activists.
Yeah.
Just because they're louder doesn't mean that they're representative of the general population.
Yeah.
I really do think that it's up to these various entities, these various, governmental agencies to kind of take a stand. And I think
agree.
in some cases, our language does change, and I think it makes sense. But in some cases, it changes because you have activist groups pushing for it, and it doesn't make sense. So let's be a little smarter. Let's use our common sense.
The third thing that you cited was the story of a guy called Jeff in your apartment block who you became friends with before you realised he was a Trump supporter. And that changed your view of what a Trump supporter actually could be like. Tell me about that.
Well, I think that in Trump's first term, a lot of people placed themselves in silos. So I was very much in a left-wing silo where I kind of refused to have any kind of relationship with someone who had voted for Trump. And so as a result, I was allowing kind of like the Democratic Party and mass media to paint a picture of all Trump supporters without really investigating it. I just kind of accepted what their summation was. Jeff, who I love, and I kind of feel bad because now like a lot of people are talking about him and he didn't ask for me to mention him. But anyway, I met him at a time when I needed help. Like I was moving into this building. My husband wasn't available. He was going to a fire academy training. And so at that time, I'm like lugging my husband's heavy bicycle up the stairs. And Jeff comes across and just says, can I help you with that? He grabs the bike and he basically helped me move in. And this guy doesn't know me. This guy really had no reason to help me, but he dropped everything he was doing and decided to dedicate the rest of the day to helping me out, getting to know me. And throughout, the subsequent weeks and months, we got to know each other better. Really, really sweet guy. And then one day we're at an HOA meeting. I remember we're sitting together on the couch as the meeting's going on. And a woman in our building stood up and she said something negative about Trump. And I was shocked because Jeff whispers in my ear, if she's going to be trashing Trump, then I'm out of here. And that made me realize, he's a Trump supporter. And so I investigated that a little more. I was curious about his politics. He was a lifelong Democrat. He loved JFK, voted for JFK. And he just said, I feel like we should support our president, even if it's someone that you did not support, you did not vote for. He's our president now. And so he explained where he was politically, but it actually didn't matter to me because I got to know who Jeff was as a person prior to understanding or knowing about his politics. And so that didn't just wake me up to how Trump supporters are not a monolith. It woke me up to the fact that all of us are complex human beings. And we should not have one side of us or one element of who we are define the entirety of our character,
right,
or the entirety of who we are as people. So that's what I was trying to say.
You've come under a bit of flack, both for your pivot, as it's seen, from left to right. The attacks have been led by Laura Loomer, who I'm on record as saying is a complete lunatic. But she said, here we have another political opportunist in the form of you, Anna Kasparian, and as a malicious and pathological liar who has spent years with her co-host, Cenk Uygur, lying about and trying to cancel every outspoken Trump supporter, including myself. She spread delusional lies about Trump, but now in a low-cut top and a full face of makeup, she wants to tell some make-believe story about a guy called Jeff, who all of a sudden made her realize that 80 million people are all unique individuals and not Nazis. Come on. Nobody is buying this garbage. Anna's trying to remain relevant to the changing media landscape after she's made serious cash bashing people like me who actually busted my ass to help Trump get elected. She's a full-blown liar. We need to reject people like this, blah, 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 blah. What's your response to Ms. Loomer?
Well, my response is actually going to clarify something you said a little earlier, which is my pivot from the left to right. I would not describe what I'm currently espousing as right-wing. I have been, basically, on economic policies, I'm very much left-wing. I have rejected the Democratic Party because they sell a bill of goods that I'm not interested in anymore. Same with the Republican Party, generally speaking. So I consider myself unaligned, and I have moderated my views on a handful of some social issues. So that's where I am right now. I really am unaligned. Neither political party represents my best interests. With that in mind, I think Laura Loomer is worried that I'm going to vie for some sort of role in Trump's White House or in the Trump ecosystem.